to my friend and colleague, Eric Fanning, and I'm so glad he pointed out that he started at Navy, but who was also courageous and steadfast and defended the things that were right in the military. So thank you, Eric, for your service. I'm a straight, white guy from Mississippi. I'm right-handed. I've got blue eyes, and I'm for the Red Sox. Now, not a one of those things, not one, says anything about my ability to be a Marine or a soldier or a sailor or an airman or a Coast Guardman. Not a one. You know, when I was at Navy, I had this sort of radical idea, I think, that you ought to set standards for military jobs. Those standards ought to be job-related. And if you meet the standards, you get the job. And everything else becomes irrelevant. Everything. Color, gender identity, where you're from, who you love, everything becomes irrelevant except the ability to do the job. In 2015, I overruled the leadership of the Marine Corps and opened all ground combat positions to women. Armor, artillery, infantry. And the Marines had done this really long test with men and women in the same units and competing against each other. And then they produced a report. And the report said that the average woman couldn't do as much as the average man, couldn't carry as much, couldn't run as fast, whatever. Since when were the Marines about average? And since when do we not judge people as individuals? Do we say, because you're from here, because this is who you are, we're not going to let you do this? And to go back, the only qualification to get a job is the ability to do the job. All a Marine on the line wants to know is, has the Marine on either side had to meet the same standards? Has the Marine on either side had to go through exactly the same thing? Now, pretty early on in my tenure, I went to Manaus, Kyrgyzstan. A lot of y'all have been through Manaus, Kyrgyzstan. Everybody who went to Afghanistan or was coming out from Afghanistan stopped for a couple of days in Manaus. And the day I was there, I spoke to about 800 Marines. And then after I spoke and took questions and went down and took pictures and shook hands as long as people wanted to, when I was getting ready to leave, there was a first-class Navy corpsman waiting to talk to me. And for those of non-Navy, non-Marine, a corpsman is a medic. The Marines don't have the their own medics, their own corpsmen, so Navy corpsmen serve with Marines in combat. And he came up to me and he said, I just want to thank you for pushing to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And he told me he had been in the Navy 11 years. He was gay, and he was just finishing his 3rd combat tour. And he said that every day before the repeal, he was worried that he would be found out and kicked out. 3 combat tours. And yet that was his biggest worry. How bad is that? How wrong is that? And how weaker does it make our Navy? How weaker does it make our Marines? How weaker does it make our military? And how weaker does it make this country to do things like that? One of the high honors of being Secretary of the Navy, but also one of the great responsibilities, is I got to name all Navy ships. How cool a job is that? And so I name ships after Medal of Honor recipients and Navy Cross recipients, after cities and towns, after battles that Marines have fought in. But there's a tradition in the Navy that we name our support ships, supply ships, oilers, after civilians whose values we cherish. And so the first ship I named was the Medgar Evers. The second ship was the Cesar Chavez. And then I got to name an entire class of ships, our new oilers. It's going to be the John Lewis class. And the other ships in the class, the Earl Warren, the Bobby Kennedy, the Sojourner Truth, and the Lucy Stone. I left one out. The second ship of that class is going to be the Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk was a Navy diver and was kicked out for being gay. How much did we lose? How much weaker did it make us as a Navy? How much weaker did it make us as a military? How much weaker did it make us as a country to lose that talent? And every time we have opened the military up, every single time, the same old arguments have been used. From the time that the military was integrated in the 1940s, through the recruitment of more women in the 1980s, through the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, to opening ground combat, to women, to transgender. And I went back and looked at the arguments used. It will hurt unit morale. It will damage unit cohesion. It's too expensive. And the military is not a place to do social experiments. They were wrong every single time. During the year that we were looking at repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, I did literally scores of all-hands calls and answered thousands of questions. And so while the senior leadership in the Pentagon was getting all wrapped around the axle about this and worried about what's it going to do to the force, how in the world can we implement this, out of those thousands of questions that I got that year, 2 were about Don't Ask, Don't Tell. 2. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. And now, the same thing is happening to our transgender service members. I got a question. What is it about bigotry in bathrooms? I mean, really, what do they do in bathrooms? You see all these bathroom bills being passed around the country, and I'll tell you another story. I mean, I'm a Southern politician, that's what I do, but when I made the decision to open up ground combat to women, immediately after making that decision, I went to virtually every Marine base in the U.S., talked to the Marines, explained why I made the decision, and explained what was going to happen. I was in Beaufort, South Carolina. Marine Air Station, Beaufort. And we had about 800 Marines in the audience. And on my staff was someone who had been a Marine major, had deployed to Iraq, had left the Marines, gotten a great education, come back onto my staff as a civilian. And the first question that I got was from a guy my age. And he was a retired colonel. And he said, he was really mad about this. And he said, this is going to kill Marines. You can't have women in combat. So I went back over it, why I did it, and setting the standards and everything. And he finally got so exasperated and so upset, he said, when I was in Vietnam for 2 tours, we'd go out for 3 or 4 weeks at a time in the field. Where are they going to go to the bathroom? And my response was, you're in combat and that's what you're worried about? But this Marine major had a better answer. She yelled out, tree line, like everybody else. No one should be excluded from the honor of defending this country for simply being who they are. And no one should be forced to lie about who they are to serve this country. In your lives, you've faced discrimination that I can't even imagine. You've been called lots of names. But I want to call you a name because it's the name that fits people in this room the best. Patriots. Thank y'all very much.